You are Locked On Eagles Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Philadelphia, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Eagles Postcast. Harry Mace, Jason Myrtetus. The Eagles go into the Big Apple and they destroy the New York Football Giants. We're going to break it down. We got to talk about Saquon Barkley's big day as well. Thanks for making Locked On Eagles your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Hillsdale College. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. Harry, do I have to go right to the 5-hour energy extra strength? Because that game started to make me a little drowsy in the second half.
Well, I know what you mean because it was not very competitive, but it was on our side where it was not competitive. So that's an easier kind of boring. That's the preferred boring game, for NFL fans whenever your team is up. It was the rocking chair ride that we thought we should have gotten last week against the miserable Cleveland Browns, who I think lost their quarterback today. It looked like an Achilles injury. But we thought we'd get that last week, but we got it this week on the road in a division game, so I'll take it.
Well, Harry, you know the old adage, when the Eagles and Giants play, throw out the records. They're always good games, and you never know.
Yeah.
Baloney. Not today.
No, not today. A lot of times that is the case. I mean, even with, when Washington was down for all those years, they'd come in and make it ugly and close, and you had, it was a fourth quarter sweat. But this week, you had the quarterback out of the game with 11 minutes and 30-some seconds left in the fourth quarter. I mean, you're putting Kenny Pickett in there, to just basically take snaps and hand off to a third-string running back. No, not Wilson Pickett. But, really, and that's great. That's what you want to see. You want to see Saquon Barkley put up 176 against his own team, his old team, 10 yards a crack, and, he had two big ones, 55 yards and 41 yards. You want to see him on the sideline in the fourth quarter with his helmet off. That's what you want to see, because that means the game is is already salted away. The defensive front, I thought, was outstanding. This Jalen Carter, man, I love watching this guy play football. Yeah. He just takes on blocks and just
wrecking ball.
Yeah, he just throws people to the side and finds the ball, and he's got a couple of sacks today. How many sacks did they have? 7, I think, as a team. Nakobe Dean had a huge game today. He showed up with 2 sacks, and at last I saw he had 6 solo tackles.
Yeah, so, Jalen Carter is like watching a Marvel movie with the Hulk, and he's just going, poof, knocking right. people away, and they're like flying.
Yeah, it's like a cartoon character, like animation. He's just in there just throwing guys to the side.
It's great.
It is great. And Bryce Huff even had a sack today.
Oh, my goodness.
How about that?
We've had a Bryce Huff sighting. You mentioned Bryce Huff before we really even mentioned Saquon Barkley and give him his due diligence as he returns home. He was obviously the story today, Har. Going back, drafted by the Giants, and we know how that whole thing played out in the offseason. And, oh, my goodness, if, the front office of the Giants and ownership, if he ends up in Philadelphia, where he ended up. Yep. And he was an absolute animal today. Yeah, I saw it right away in that first drive when it was a third down off the field, but he's in the open field and there's a giant tackler there, and he's like, I'm just going to truck you. And he destroyed the dude just to set a little tone, which was fantastic. So 176 on 17 carries, 10.4 average, and a touchdown. Not a bad day for Saquon.
No, not a bad day at all. And actually, I shorted the Eagles. They had 8 sacks as a defense. They had 8. Okay. They sacked Locke once. Also, they sacked Daniel Jones 7 times. He was eventually benched in the fourth quarter. They held him yards per attempt to less than 5 yards per attempt. And the Giants' offense, when the starting quarterback was in the game, had 103 total yards. That is, you don't see that much in the NFL, where an offense gets dominated like that, especially at home in a division setting. That was domination.
7 sacks on Daniel Jones for 56 yards.
Yeah.
That's he only threw for 99. He was sacked for 56.
I know.
And then 1 for 6 for Drew Lock. And as you mentioned, 8 total sacks, 62 yards for the Eagles today. They got nothing going on the ground either. But let's talk about Saquon because Harry, I said to you before we went live, I said, is Saquon in the MVP conversation in the NFL? And you said if he makes that catch in week 2 against Atlanta, then he might be.
I think he is.
But he didn't make that catch.
Because the Eagles would only have one loss. I mean, they legitimately got beat. They got beaten in Tampa Bay. They were down a couple of their big receivers, and they just got beat. And that happens in this league. But they'd be 5-1. And I think he would be right up near the top. He's probably not far off as it is. I mean, because when this guy touches the ball, there's an opportunity for a home run play. I mean, that's just how good he is. I mean, he just needs – you see some of these plays develop at the line of scrimmage. The Eagles did some really nice blocking, for him, even with, a couple guys down on that offensive line. You got Mylato on IR. You had Steen in there for Becton. There's they're shifting different tight ends because no Goddard, and they're doing some really nice blocking schemes. But all he needs is a crease, man. Yeah. He just has that little crease. He gets through that first level and boom. Because nobody in that defensive secondary wants to step up and stick their head in there and tackle this guy. They all go up top, right? And then he's so strong with those legs. Like, he just carries 3 people another 8-10 yards. It's unbelievable. Yeah,
when they try and go up top, then he gains the advantage.
Of course. But nobody wants to get low with him.
No, because it's a huge mistake. He got a fine last week, too, for lowering the head.
Yeah, he did. But what's he supposed to do in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, he's been taught that his whole life.
I know.
But he was an absolute animal in the game tonight.
He wasn't looking to go out of bounds this week. Remember last week?
No business decisions, Harry.
One out of bounds. Man, he was trucking people this week.
And if he was going out of bounds, he was looking for a coach to take along the ride.
Right. Yeah, the giant coach he ran into. That's right in the first half.
If you're on the field, you are not safe.
Right.
If he's got the ball.
Keep your head on a swivel when he's got the ball.
What do you think of the kind of the complimentary guy too? And Gainwell kind of spells him once in a while. He got more today maybe than he would normally with 13 rushes, 56 yards. But he's a decent guy to put in there.
Absolutely, he catch the ball out of the backfield. He's been with this team 3 or 4 years now out of Memphis, and I like the idea of getting him some low level double digit carries, because you can't Saquon Barkley's got to be here for the duration. Okay, you need to sort of spell him when you can, and when you have a big lead, give it to Gainwell a few times. Put Shipley in the game. I know
he got 8 carries
at the very end. They put him in, and he got some carries. So that's great, man. I like Gainwell. He's got some explosiveness, and he's a small guy. He gets lost in the shuffle out. I don't think a lot of defensive guys can even see him. For the first couple yards, he has the ball. He's hiding behind those offensive linemen, and then boom, he hits the crease and he can go.
Yeah, and he's very explosive. All said and done, the Eagles' rushing game today, led by Barkley, obviously. Jalen Hurts also had 7 for 22 and 2 touchdowns on the ground, tush-push special.
Yeah.
But 45 carries, 270 yards. If you're gaining 270 yards on the ground, first of all, you were ahead and you controlled the game.
Right.
And the opposition just couldn't get anything. It tells the story right there. There's the number within the number.
Well, yeah, and you saw early in the first half, the Giants' defense had a couple of sacks. I think they had like 4 sacks in the first quarter and a half.
Yep.
So they were very active in on pass plays. So what did the Eagles do? They're like, look, we're going to stick it on the ground. They're not going to be able to deal with him. Obviously, they wanted to feature him a little bit more, maybe than a normal week going back to New York and so forth. But they just decided, hey, from now on, we're just running the football. I mean, Hurts, how many attempts do you have? Like 14?
Yeah, 10 of 14.
And he didn't turn the ball over again.
Nope.
So that's 2 weeks in a row where he hasn't turned it over. So that's good. So.
I was actually a little worried, Harry, in the beginning of the game, the way they were getting to him. I'm going, you got some issues on the offensive line. And they're getting to him a little bit here. He's got sacked, like you said, in the first quarter and a half, 4 sacks against. And I'm going, this game could be iffy. I can't believe I felt that way then after the way it ended up.
Oh, I know. Well, then you had the big play. Barkley had that big run, and
55.
All of a sudden, then it's 7-0, and then shortly after it's 14-0. So, then you knew once it was 14-0. I'm like, there's no way. I know the Giants at the end of the half were threatening there, but the Eagles stiffened and held them to a field goal. That was huge. And the other thing that I thought was huge, this Cooper DeJean guy is doing a really nice job with punt returns. He's pretty shifty back there. He had a nice punt return, and Kenny Gainwell had a really good series. And Hurts, on 4th and 3 at the Giant 41, got pressure in his face, and he hung in the pocket and delivered an absolute strike to AJ down the sideline, who was in one-on-one coverage, and got the touchdown. And that put him up 14-0. And I thought, all right, here we go. This game's over. The next series, Jalen Carter got the sack on the first play that the Giants ran. 1st and 10, sack, pushed them back 4 or 5 yards, and turned it into a 3-and-out. That's exactly like in baseball with the playoffs going right now. You know, a team comes in, they hang a crooked number on them in the top of the inning, and the bottom of the inning, your starting pitcher gets a clean inning and gets out of it. You can't take the lead like that and then let the other team back a little bit. And that defensive series was really key, and it was spearheaded by Jalen Carter with that sack on first down.
Yeah, I like the play also that he made Jalen Hurts on that. They're down by the Giant goal line, and it's a 4th and 2.
Yeah.
And he's got nobody open. He eventually decides, I'm just going to tuck it and I'll run.
Right.
He didn't get in the end zone, but he got the first down.
Yeah,
he took a big pop.
I forget who. Pinnock was the guy that came in and stuck him with a shoulder pad, Yeah, that was a big hit. But yeah, that was a big play. And then they ended up going with the tush push, and the Giants lined up off sides. Now here, this goes to show you that how they're a bad football team. How do you line up off sides with your back up against the goal line in a key situation like that, and move them half the distance to the goal? Then they do the tush push and score, and the game is absolutely over at 21-3.
And that's because the tush push is in their head before the snap even
maybe.
happens. They know they know they got to do everything they can to try and jam it up, and you just can't. But the lineup off sides is inexcusable.
Yeah.
All right, coming up, we're going to look. You mentioned him, A.J. Brown. We're going to look at the receivers. A.J. Brown also a couple of really big catches in this game. And even though Hurts kind of had to manage the game,
that's okay.
That preserves them a little bit.
That's okay.
So we'll talk about that and much more here on Eagles Postcast on the Locked On Network. Back after this. Well, let me tell you about BetterHelp. This time of year, sun starts going down earlier, and it can lead to some seasonal depression. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. If you don't feel, like you're up to your normal standard, you're not operating on all cylinders, you don't feel your full self, maybe you're hiding behind a mask to use a little Halloween theme this time of year. Well, that's when you got to call and you got to check in with the people at BetterHelp. Therapy can help you learn to accept all parts of yourself, and you can take off that mask. You can really, if you're having a hard time just managing, if you're having a hard time with stress from your job, family issues, finances, we know that's a big thing with a lot of people right now. You don't know how to navigate it? Well, don't be alone and do it. Check in with BetterHelp. BetterHelp can help with coping skills, setting boundaries, and empower you to be the best version of yourself. Now, you don't have to, be in bad shape. You can do this to get yourself running at peak performance. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, which is great, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. So again, overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today. Get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, Harry, the receivers, the wide receivers. A.J. Brown leading the way once again. When he came back, we said, you really know what you have in him.
The game.
When he's gone, it's a huge difference.
Very interesting stat line in this receiving core, too.
Why is that?
What's Devonte Smith?
One catch.
One catch, only 2 targets. And for -2 yards. I thought that was really, if you're going to say that the Eagles are going to beat somebody 28-3 on the road, and Devonte Smith is going to go for -2 yards, that's a crazy stat.
It is, and Jalen Hurts only threw the ball 14 times. 10 receptions, 5 of them to A.J. Brown. 5 targets, 5 catches, 70 or 89 yards, and a touchdown. He's just an absolute beast, man.
He's an animal, man. He really is. I'm telling you.
As big and strong, it's crazy because as big and strong as he is, he gets separation all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Is he just a good route runner?
He's just tough. He's a tough cover, man. He really is. Especially when you're putting him out there one-on-one.
Yeah.
I mean,
being a cornerback lining up against him.
Oh, yeah.
He can get you in so many different ways.
I mean, Jalen Hurts must be looking over to his left saying, oh, boy, here we go.
Yeah. The good news about the receiving game today is with no Goddard, no problem.
Right.
And what's the status of his injury, Harry?
Well, I don't really even know. I mean, I just know that he hasn't been IR'd.
Yeah.
I mean, they IR'd Mailata. So, I'm thinking like, Goddard could be he was just listed as inactive today. So I'm thinking, could be next week against the Bengals. I don't know.
Yeah, you need him back when it really matters. But I mean, they're in good position now. You can beat the Giants without having him. Alcantara ended up with one catch for 5 yards in this game, but it wasn't the passing game because the Giants are just that bad and they controlled it. So, what did you think of the way this game was managed? Because again, no first quarter points. I wanted to pluck a little hair I have on my body out when they still can't get first quarter point. I know they score 14 in the second, but again, I don't want to make an issue on a day when you win 28-3, but it is kind of an issue.
It's puzzling. It's puzzling.
It really is.
Yeah, what is it? 8 games in a row now, I think, that they've done this.
Yeah.
And going back to last year, and they were 0 for 5 on third down in the first half as an offense, which is really strange. You had the 14-3 lead, and yet you're 0 for 5 on third down. It's kind of hard to believe. They got to work this out because they've had the luxury of a pretty soft schedule here early. Now you start looking back on teams like New Orleans. New Orleans doesn't look very good. I know, they got the win, and at the time I'm thinking, man, this might look like a good win in December. Not so much. The Browns absolutely stink, and the Giants are the Giants. Even though they're in the division, they're not a good football team. The Packers are their best win, and they actually should have beaten Atlanta. Obviously, in my view. But they've had the benefit of a pretty good schedule here. Now, I know they got Cincinnati next week, who's very capable and has a big-time offense. But you start coming up against better teams and a little late in the year. I mean, you gotta score early in these games. Even their first series on the second half was a 3-and-out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I mean, I like
these are the scripted.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
You just got to show me. You can't scratch out a field goal in the first quarter of an NFL game in the last 8 games? That's bizarre to me.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point because coming out of the half too, it just looks ugly,
right?
And you're like, wait a minute. Like Andy Reid was known as the halftime adjuster, right? Come out in the second half, and he was known also as that first
15.
The first 15 plays being scripted, and he was great at it. This team utterly stinks at it.
Yeah, it's weird.
I mean, this has to kind of fall back to coaching in some way.
It's really kind of bizarre. I mean, I'm not gonna harp on it because they are 4-2 now.
Yeah,
and that's a good win in the division on the road, and you did to that team what you should have done to them. You beat them up. You dominated them with the defensive front. Their quarterback is not very good. Well, you didn't let him look good at all. I mean, they made him look
gave
like
him nothing.
He is. Yeah, gave him nothing. He had nothing. And the Giants, had no running attack. Your running back controlled it. Your defense was just all over the quarterback. And, guys stepped up and made some big plays on defense. And you rode your horse today. Yeah. Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, and his return back to New York against his former team, which is huge. I mean, 4-2, it's a good start. I just look at it and I go, I hope this is something they can work out with, getting off to better starts and coming out of the half because
the fans get anxious too. The longer the game goes and the Eagles' offense hasn't put up a point, that's where they get antsy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I'm really happy though for this one element that Sirianni's not the story this week though.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't even know that there's much of a story post in this game. It's, the Eagles beat the Giants. Yeah, they took, like you said, they took care of business against a team they should have beat. They beat them handily, even though they should have done that the week before. They didn't. But you go, okay, there's no really any kind of drama that comes out of this game in any way, shape. Quarterback didn't turn the ball over.
Yep.
I mean, everybody kind of did what they were supposed to do, so there's no talking point going back to the Giants to harp on all week. You just look ahead to Cincinnati.
It's just the post of script of Saquon. Like, what were some of the conversations down there on the field? Post game handshakes. What was said. That kind of stuff might be interesting. But I agree with you. And Fox is kind of telling the Eagles right now what they think of this Eagles team. As far as how interesting they are. They got the Chris Myers Sanchez team today on a division game.
Yeah, the butt fumble.
You got Chris Myers and Mark Sanchez.
Yeah.
And now next week they got flexed back to 1:00 from a 4:25 in favor of the two rookie quarterbacks going head to head in Chicago and Washington.
You would think New York market, Philadelphia market, you should never get Chris Myers in that situation. Ever. I actually thought Sanchez wasn't bad.
No, Sanchez isn't that bad.
But Myers is a drip.
Sanchez has gotten a lot better over the last couple of years doing that.
And he played in New York, so
I have no problem with him.
Yeah.
But Chris Myers, I mean, did you hear the joke he tried to crack? Barkley may be the best thing to happen to Philadelphia since Ben Franklin.
Yeah.
What?
Like, what are you even talking about?
And then when the Eagles scored, he goes, he's like, Hurts forward, a touchdown.
Yeah.
He does this thing where he goes, Arr.
He is tough on the ears, man. He should be doing some narration or something.
I know.
But you're right. Like, they don't make that decision to give you that crew unless, because they have all the research and they'll know, basic audience numbers, even though it was New York and Philly, two huge East Coast markets.
Yeah.
And a division game, they still gave you Chris Myers. You couldn't get, the number 1 crew, number 2 crew, number 5 crew.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the D-list of D-list.
I thought it was interesting.
You're not wrong, Harry.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
But how about Nakobe Dean today?
Yeah.
Big time game, stepped up, got a couple of sacks, a lot of tackles, was very active. That was really good to see on the defensive side of the ball. There's a lot of things that came out of this game besides the overwhelming win. I mean, it's just some little sub-storylines that are good to see.
Well, speaking of storylines, this is kind of the end of the first third of the schedule. You always break down the NFL in either when it was 16 games in 4-game chunks, and you had those 4
weeks. It's 18 weeks. Yep.
Yeah, it's 18 weeks. So you're done the first third of the schedule. We'll look at that and what lies ahead in the following 2/3. That's the big part. Harry's going to tell you about FanDuel right after this.
Hey, NFL fans, it's time to keep it going with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, you can view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. No need to go anywhere else. No need to toggle around from page to page. You'll get started with $200 too in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet on FanDuel. If you think a team has momentum and is going to score, you can live bet it as you watch it. FanDuel has made it super easy so you don't miss any of the action. With FanDuel, it's not just straight bets and parlays either. Visit FanDuel.com and you can see all of the odds and opportunities to get in on the action while you watch the action. What could be better? That's FanDuel.com. Visit FanDuel.com and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's all at FanDuel.com.
All right, Harry. A third of the season is over. Green Bay and Brazil.
Yep.
Atlanta,
home game.
Yep.
That was a home game.
Yeah. My rear end, that's not a home game.
I know.
Of course, Atlanta and the drop pass by Barkley. He took it on himself to take ownership of that. Saints, Tampa, Cleveland, Giants, that's all in the rear view.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up, as you mentioned, flex back to 1:00 is the Cincinnati game on the road.
Yep.
And then Jacksonville at Lincoln Financial Field coming up on November 3rd.
Against Dougie P., who might have saved his job today.
Yeah.
It was actually a pretty impressive performance. I watched that game. I actually tuned in and stayed with it just to see how they play, and they look pretty good today.
You're going multi-view with Doug P. to see if I needed to break out the Stu Nod meter, right?
That's right.
I still have it, Harry.
Right.
I hear it buzzing in the attic every once in a while.
I think the owner, Khan, had it up in the box when he was watching from England today.
I should send it to him.
He might have busted it out.
But really, kind of the meat and potatoes, every game in the NFL means a ton.
Oh, yeah.
But the meat and potatoes, Harry, of this season comes before the turkey and trimmings, and that's on November 10th in Big D.
Yeah, at Dallas. I mean, this whole stretch here, after the Jacksonville game, at Dallas, Washington, who's good now. In the beginning of the year, you weren't thinking that Washington was all that good. At the Rams, who's not a great team, but it's on the road, and then at Baltimore. I mean, that's a pretty tough stretch.
Yeah, no doubt. And you have that. Baltimore's tough, too, because of the travel to L.A. the week before.
Right.
So you're going to L.A. on Sunday, and that's a night game, Sunday Night Football. And then the Baltimore game on the road is a 4:25, so you have a little reprieve there, but not ideal. And then Carolina stinks out loud.
Yeah, they stink.
Pittsburgh, then Washington again, Dallas, and the Giants. We'll see what Washington does today. They're just underway. I did see that Minnesota lost. Detroit beat them, I guess, at the buzzer.
Yeah, Detroit beat them.
I think 31-29. But yeah, there's a lot of intrigue on here right away. But the Eagles, through 6 games, Harry, it's been kind of underwhelming at points, kind of concerning at other points. But you're sitting at 4-2.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel like last year when they got off to that great start and it was ugly. It was they're finding ways to win. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like a different season. I don't know where they're going from here, but look, 4-2 is 4-2.
Hey man, well with this running back, they can keep him healthy, and the quarterback limits the turnovers like he has the last 2 weeks to 0. Actually, the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
they will be in every football game.
Yeah, I mean the quarterback hasn't looked his MVP form in the last 2, but he hasn't had to.
Hey, if you get the kind of running game that you got today, now I know that you're not going to get that every week, but a dominant wide receiver who nobody can cover and a running back like this, the quarterback can be a little bit more than a game manager and a guy who, inside the 5-yard line is going to be able to run it in himself. Well, he's so tough to bring down.
Yeah, that's the other element is the ability that he has to run the ball. Being able to scramble out of the pocket. He still takes too many sacks for my liking. I think he holds on to it a little long, which scares me. But his ability to get out and get first downs and key plays using his legs is a big element. I don't know where they're going. I don't know what I feel. I don't even know where I feel about this season. I don't even know how I grade them through 6 games. I grade certain players really well.
Yeah.
But overall, I don't even know where they are as a team. I don't know where they fit right now in the NFL or in their division.
Like between a B and a B minus?
Yeah, it kind of feels right. Like a B minus kind of feels right.
B minus, somewhere around there.
I mean, maybe just a B if they would have taken care of business more kind of.
Oh, if they beat Atlanta, if they closed out that game like
that, it's A minus.
You're talking A minus, B plus, definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, had they just destroyed Cleveland, like that was a little concerning to me. How Cleveland was able to stick
the Browns
around.
Are so bad.
Oh, they're hideous.
I know they got Chubb back this weekend. Or this week, but
it looks like Watson's done for the year.
Yeah,
with that Achilles,
that does not look good.
Yeah, so you've put all you've done with the 4-2 is put yourself right in the mix. Whether Washington wins this week or not, you have 2 games against them coming up. That's all that matters. The key to me, keeping A.J. Brown healthy, keeping the quarterback healthy, and keeping Saquon Barkley healthy. Getting Goddard, the offensive line too. Lane Johnson's obviously a big part of that. How long is Mailata going to be out for? I know he's IR.
He's out at least like a month, because of the IR rule. But
because he's not eligible to come back.
Right.
But if you can get him back in a month and get everybody kind of on the same page, then they might be a team that can do something. What's the old saying? You're really not playing the meaningful games until Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Well, you survive the first part and put yourself in position, then it's really down to business against these teams in the division. I don't know what Dallas is either.
Yeah, I don't think that.
I don't think they're very good.
I don't think they're very good. I really.
But can they straighten it out, Harry?
I mean, they don't.
0-3 at home, 3-0 on the road.
They don't have a running game.
No.
I mean, they don't have a running game. They got a lot of injuries on defense. They don't look like a team that's ready to turn it around. Not to me. And
they're minus 40
because that quarterback has never been one of those guys to sort of say, "Hey, get on my back." He needs a lot of help. In that offense to do it. He's a complimentary kind of quarterback. He's not the kind of guy that can just take over a game by himself. Well,
can Dallas straighten it out? I don't know. I don't think so. But Eagle-Cowboy games are always going to be crazy. It's bananas. They're 0-3 at home, 3-0 at home, and they're minus 42 in point differential. Ooh, that's an ugly stat. That's through 6 games.
Yeah, that's weird. But the stat that matters is 4-2, and in the NFL through 6 games, that's pretty good. That's a team that's a pretty good team, not a great team, but a team that can, if they keep doing what we said, limit the turnovers, the quarterback just be more prudent with the ball. I don't like the fact that he takes these sacks either. He had one today where it was 3rd and long, I think, and he's back and he's running around back there. Just throw the ball away.
Yeah, get outside
and then he lost another 10 yards. It's like, come on, man, just throw it away. Throw it to the 3rd row.
I don't know why that's so difficult to throw it away sometimes. It drives me crazy. I'm like, just get rid of it.
Well, I think some of these guys just feel like, man, I'm never going to give up on a play because I know, like, I've got playmakers out there. One more split second and AJ could, show me that he's open and I'm just going to throw it. That kind of thing. I get that. But sometimes you just got to just say, hey, punting's not a bad thing.
Yeah. All right. So next week we'll be on earlier than expected. We thought the game was going to be a 4:25 game. It's been flexed back to 1 o'clock, so around the same time. We'll be there for the Eagles Postcast as soon as the clock hits 0, and we'll break down Eagles and the Cincinnati Bengals. Big game next week on the road. So join us then on our next Eagles Postcast. And thanks for making Locked On Eagles Postcast your first listen. Now for your second listen, go find the new Locked On NFL with 2 shows every day. This is great. First, the Madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso. And then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. You can find a Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. You can find this there as well. So everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. You've been listening to the Eagles Postcast. Harry Mays, Jason Myrtetus. We'll talk to you next week right here